So just a couple of things I just want to point out. This is the biggest thing I see from investors today is like, what do I invest in? Where do I go? People are very, very eager to invest. And I mean, you see it too. I mean, there's a lot of talking out there. So being diligent and being prudent in the way that you're looking at these companies and where they're going and staying ahead of the trend is really the opportunity. These are some of the trends that we're going to see. There's going to be a lot more volatility. We're going to see a lot more public offerings. We're going to see a lot more consolidation. But here's what I wanted to show you. I thought this was kind of interesting. Where is the money going? Over the last 5 years, where is the money gone on the investment front? And at what stage? Obviously, a lot of it has gone into the seed stage, the new companies. A bigger proportion is just in the early stage of these companies, and very little in the more mature stage. This shouldn't surprise anybody, and if we look at this next year and the next couple of years, I'm sure that's gonna change. But this was interesting, and what I wanted to show you here is that public capital raises are up about 25%, and that's not surprising to see what's going on in the CSE. So the number of raises have gone down 25% since last year, and the dollar raises have gone up 50%. So what does that tell us? It means the amount of money being raised is actually higher per transaction. I'm just going to run through a couple of looking at the sectors that are raising the most capital. And this is no surprise given what we talked about before. The majority of the funds that are being raised are in the cultivation and the retail side. There's about $27 billion there. There's huge growth in M&A and M&A funding. This is just another sign of the consolidation in the industry. And real estate, money going into real estate, more than double this year over last year. By the way, this tracks. This is just year to date this year versus last year. Pharma and biotech investing has gone up about 50%. So we're seeing some things trending here. This next one is about the M&A, what's going on with M&A. Private sector deals are up about 400% over last year, and total M&A deals are up 63%, underscoring some of the trends that are happening here. What do you look for? There's a lot of pieces to look for, but essentially the diligence that investors look at and the diligence that companies have to prove are pretty much the same. It's the market, it's the talent, it's the product, and then it's the financials. So if you take a look at this and you look at these companies, think about it, there's 32,000 cannabis companies of every variety and size in this country. 30% of them are going to fail. It's a growth rate of 25% on the cannabis side, about 40% on the CBD hemp side. So with that kind of movement, you're going to see a lot of companies fall by the wayside. So how do you invest? I'm going to share this with you, this model. Say this is a window, this is a model, this is a window, this is where we start, right? Investors look through a window when they're looking at a company, and companies look through a window when they're looking to raise capital. And they have to be looking at the same thing. So I say there are 4 things that they need to look at. First, financial capital. Companies want it, investors want to put it out there, they want a return on their money. Intellectual capital. Social capital. Who are your advisors? Who are your JV partners? Who are your alliances? Who are your advisors? And then finally, human capital. Who's the team? So financial capital, I call this the voice, how you're taking it out. How you're taking it out in the market. You know, if you're an investor, you want your companies to be good stewards of capital. If you're a company receiving capital, it's not a field day for spending. It's a time to be very prudent and a fiduciary with that money that you're putting together. So obviously you're going to look at some balance sheets, you're going to look at operating efficiencies over time, costs of inputs over time as well. Intellectual capital, this is the architecture. You know, what's the branding? What are the processes and the systems that you're putting in place to be efficient? I call this the hardware of the business. It's the traditional business measures. But we can't give short shrift to the software of the business. The software is the social capital, the networks, the access to information. These kinds of gatherings, I know you didn't come just to hear me speak. There's a lot of people to meet in this room. So social networks are critical. And finally, when you look at the human capital, who's leading this? And how engaged are the people around the table? Are they all rowing in the same direction? And are they focused on a strategy? Are they mission-based? Because what I'm seeing is I must see 15 to 20 decks a week, and I see a lot of crap that's coming by without a strategy that's thought through. So if you don't have all of these pieces put together, you meaning those of you who are raising money, if you don't have these put together, you're not gonna appeal to investors. And investors, if you're not looking for all these pieces, you're missing part of this, because the industry is becoming more traditional, it's growing, and we all want an exit and we all want return on our capital. So just lastly, summing the whole thing up, you can read all this stuff, but these are the trends to look for, these are the things to watch for. CBD will become differentiated, it'll become branded, mainstream talent will continue to come into this. Probably also Nelson Peltz joined Aurora, looking at strategic acquisitions. And finally, we need to be good stewards of capital, because whether it's financial capital, human capital, social capital, or intellectual capital, that's what this industry is built on. So I will say thank you so much, everybody.